kind of forcing it in that situation. Wukong is open as a potential first pick, but looks like they're going to go for the Senna. I mean, I feel like with the other high prior bot lanes banned away, maybe feeling more freedom to go for this. AL can definitely prioritize the likes of the Wukong here or the Viego if they want to have first choice on jungler. Does mean that RA are still going to be able to answer with the other counterpart, so doesn't mean you get a massive advantage other than first choice. But it'll be interesting to see what bot lane AL takes into this Senna Tahm, assuming it's Senna Tahm, but bare minimum the Senna, as it has been such a problematic lane on this patch.
I guess
it
my
looks like
biggest
Ezreal.
question, yeah, the Ezreal comes in. I guess my biggest question is like, maybe it's just my personal take, but I feel like Senna is not an iBoy champion, and I you know, with the way the meta is going, I would love to see some more pop-offs from iBoy himself, but they're gonna go with that Senna Tahm Kench that worked decently well for them last time. The Graves also locked in for Rare Adam, but just as you make the noise, we get the Bard locked in for anyone's legend to pair it with the Ezreal.
Yeah, so all interesting stuff. The Ezreal tends to be seen into Senna because you do outrange the Senna until Senna gets like 1,000,000 souls, being able to keep a distance with that Q. Obviously, laning phase, it is going to be quite hard to deal with to ever poke out a Senna Tahm, but you have the Bard. So now this is a lane where Betty will just look to scale up and Chocho is able to roam and impact the map. Leyan going for the Graves, I assume it's for him. We did see this a bit MSI earlier on with the Umbral Glaive Rush, but less so as the tournament continued. Now, second rotation of bans, already banning away the Kale, which we often saw have so much presence in that final pick or as a counter pick. And AL banning the LeBlanc. We could see Alessandra ban here, and then an Ari pick on that fourth pick. So it'll be interesting to see if Ari ban away the Ari in this situation and try and limit Forge from going for that option, because this is the exact same trick that RA pulled in the last draft, right? You ban LeBlanc, Lissandra, and pick Ari.
Exactly, and see if that trick is pulled there. I do appreciate the mid focus, but as well as Rare Adam giving a lot of respect, like in their gameplay of game number 1, but here in the draft as well, just making sure, you know, anyone's legend, if you're gonna pull out a game like you did in game number 1, it's not gonna be in the same fashion as they do take away the Ari.
Yeah, banning away that, and I think particularly with the Viego, it's very potent. The fact they both reset on kills can be problematic to say the least. So looks like they might just lean towards that Swain again. Forge had a fantastic game on it. Still toying
I'm down
with the
for
option.
either of them. You can hover both. Zoe, Swain, pick one. I don't care any of it, Ox. I would love to see it either way, but that Swain was extra dirty last game, and the fact that there was so much presence from that first dragon fight, where, you know, we're getting that level 6 mark. Demonic Ascension comes through, the sustain is huge throughout the rest of the fight.
Ooh.
It was so important. So I do like the Swain picked up here.
We saw yesterday so many bans towards the Azir in the second rotation. So I know it's just a hover, but I think a big thing, as I talked about earlier, Swain wants to be in range and stay in range. So already you have the Senna, who's a long range pick.
Yeah.
They now lock in the Azir, which is also a long range pick. It might end up being difficult for Forge to find a way into these fights. Now, be interested to see what Cube takes. He will be blind picking here, but I will say a lot of top laners banned away. The GP, the Gwen, the Kale, those big picks on the patch removed. And we'll see what Cube ends up going for. We'll go for the Ornn. So haven't seen this nearly as much in the LPL than other regions. Last split, we saw a ton of Ornn in like NA and EU. Here, though, they'll take it just to be the weak side. They can play more for the scaling lanes. CDZ, though, potentially looking to answer here.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. They weren't really able to bring that to fruition last game for Rare Adam. They were just getting forced into fights, and then all of a sudden their base was gone. So opting into that later game scaling is a good thing on this patch, but you also have to make sure you make it there. I think that's for Rare Adam. That is the biggest question here. Is Camille locked in for anyone's legend as their final pick?
Yeah, so something that will be able to scale and can help facilitate getting onto these backline members. I actually kind of like Camille into the Senna Tahm, or just Tahm in general, because what you can do is you can ult like the carry, and then it'll knock Tahm away, and hopefully you burst out the target before Tahm can get in range to gobble them up. Otherwise, I mean, you're pretty doomed anyway, but... Considering we said there was an issue with Forge closing the gap, I think having a pick with Engage would be very important if anyone's legend ever want to team fights. But I feel like this game might get harder and harder as the game goes on. You have Azir, who scales exceptionally in his long range. It's going to be able to contest Prio early. You have Senna, who scales exceptionally in his long range. And then Ornn obviously handing out the ornaments. I think coming out here, you're going to have to find that early momentum. Chocho on the Bard needs to make things happen, I feel.
And I want to go back to a main focus we had of this series was the jungle matchup, right? The young guns coming in here, being a force to be reckoned with for these teams. And I'm feeling a lot better for Leyan. this time around. He's on the Graves. He's not the Nocturne. We had some questions about the Nocturne from last game, but I think, you know, RA are setting themselves up a lot better in terms of the jungle aspect of the game this time around.
Yeah, my only concern would be being less proactive early, right? Enemy team has the likes of a Bard, Super Roamer. You have the Viego strong on those early skirmishes, whereas Graves is a bit more of a farming jungler. And on top of that, you know, you can't forget it's not actual roaming, but the assistance from a Swain. Swain's W, super long range, applies a strong slow and has a decent amount of damage. If you just lay that down in a skirmish, you don't even have to be there, but if you follow up on CC, let's say Bard lands a stun, you W on top, you're contributing to the fight with that extra bit of damage, or you can block someone's path with it to allow an engage to come in. So it's not like I'm not talking like it's like a, you know, a TF or a Galio in terms of roaming power, but he can assist outside the lane. And I think that's something they need to hone in on, right? AL, they need to be moving around the map. They need to be making things happen, because if they sit back and scale, they will lose that match.
Indeed. And as we do get into game number 2, we're on to the Rift. Everybody's taking their respective places. Had a little bit of vision gain going early on, but nothing too crazy. Actually, looks like no vision put down just yet from the side of RA, but just a lot of movement early on in this game specifically. And I love that we talked a little bit about Leyan on the Graves, different from the Nocturne itself, but now we get, you know, a tried and true pick for Xiaohao as well, with the Viego on the other side, and finding a way to utilize that in the same vein as, you know, the game number 1 pick went in fact of getting the lead going.
Yeah, and I really think Xiaohao, you know, the Lee Sin, obviously he had a fantastic performance from that. And you went to Leyan as well. We've highlighted this player so much on what he does for RA. I feel like the Nocturne wasn't working as well. And I feel like here as well, hasn't got a pick that you can have as much impact on, which, you know, we'll see what RA can do without him being that triple carry.
They are just literally trading absolute bloody blows down here in the bottom lane, and Yuyanjia was just taking it all like it's no problem. But that does, you know, since we're down here, I want to talk a little bit more about Betty and iBoy and the approach that RA have taken to the spot lane so far in this series, right? We have seen the Senna Tahm Kench twice in a row now.
Yeah, and I think it is just one of these consistent lanes we're going to see on this patch, because one of the weaknesses of the Senna Tahm, the new Tahm, being that you can't eat the Senna out of trouble in the laning phase. That is like the vulnerability, is that pre-6 you could get bursted out. And Tahm suffers from a similar issue to Rakan, in that your W is so telegraphed. If they are all inning, they will just flash over it. Like if QiuQiu and Betty are trying to kill iBoy and they are going to kill him, and you want a W to block them, Betty can arcane shift or flash over it. QiuQiu can flash over it, and they will commit those resources to get the kill. So that was typically the weakness. But obviously now with the durability changes, it's a lot harder to find those opportunities to take out the Senna. And also, if you're not finding all-ins against against Senna Tahm, they will just sustain up. There's insane sustain between these two. So even though we saw that early trade, you have the healing from Senna, the Grey Health, the Doran Shield, the second win from Tahm Kench, and they can kind of just handle any harass thrown at them and continue to scale to be that excellent late game duo.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's when you're highlighting RA so much in this game. It was all about the scaling. They definitely opted into a lot of those options early on in the draft, and, you know, continuing that fashion. I guess that makes me think a little bit of recency bias, but I won't get to speak about that because we do have the magical journey by QiuQiu to get himself out of the Yuyanjia engage. But what I was going to say is, you know, looking at last game and seeing the propensity to have a little bit of early skirmishing, especially around that first dragon that we had, that really teed up anyone's legend to have a lot of control around the map. I wonder if we get some more of that in the second game, or if we get more of that respect we were seeing from both teams.
Yeah, well, I feel like AL want those early skirmishes, particularly if they find numbers advantages with the roaming potential of the Bard. Viego, fantastic in those skirmishes, whereas RA, they could just slow the game down. And honestly, I think a big thing to talk about is early dragons. If RA pick up an early dragon, it's going to delay the soul by minimum 5 minutes. If you think of the fact that, like, let's say AL get the next 4, it's 5 minutes longer till soul, and that gives them more time, more opportunity to scale. So I think with the fact they have prior bot lane, if they find a window to use that, to utilize the pushing power that Senna Tahm has right now, then I would love to see them try and get an early dragon. But for now, Leyan looking to steal away this camp.
The visions of Empire are so dirty. You can just always find people out. Leyan, though, with some smooth moves, putting some damage onto Xiaohao with the red buff as well. I mean, Xiaohao's going to have to run away. No help from the mid laner as Strive is pushing in Forge at the same time.
Yeah, the red buff coming out from the graves. If you're not able to close the gap, he will just harass you down. And ultimately, this is the power of the Azir. This is why he has been banned.
Gotta be real careful on both Strive and Forge. Both of them neck and neck there.
Yeah. Pulled it close, but Strive still safe. Had the flash, obviously. Didn't really have the mana to dash away. I was going to talk about the Azir, but looks like we're going to gank.
Let's go. The Magical Journey gank here as its flash is coming out from RA, but it is doomed. Abyssal Dive tries to get Yuyanjia out, but the target was iBoy all along. The kill comes to Xiaohao. He gets the reset there as well, but that was a huge play from anyone's legend.
Yeah, I love how Xiaohao picks up the soul as well. Like, you're not going to keep those, dude. But ultimately, really nice play. This is one of the powers of the Bard, is that you can just leave the lane and then, you know, people expect you to be roaming, but you can also just gank your own lane with the portal. This is particularly potent when you're on red side because there is this long tunnel. So RA bot lane finding that prio, but left them vulnerable. And watch this flash from QiuQiu. Flashes, uses the minion to find the stun. So iBoy ends up going down, and it is close. Betty struggling to get in range, but they eventually get the kill. And now someone is down for iBoy. Means they have to be a little bit more careful.
Have to be get a little cheeky back there. I can appreciate that. Living life on the edge. But something I want to highlight, what I was going to talk about before we saw RA get pounced on in bot lane, was the fact that iBoy and Yuyanjia were playing very much further up than they were able to last game. Last game, Betty and QiuQiu were putting the pressure on constantly with the Lucian Nami. But that means that, you know, iBoy and Yuyanjia are going to play a little bit differently when they do get control of the lane. And it led out perfectly to a bait for anyone's legend.
Yeah, Lucian Nami is, I would say, oppressive, but even I'd go as far as to say is obnoxious to play into. The trading power is so extreme, the ability to bully you out of the lane. So it's a stark difference with the Ezreal Bard, who we did see trading a bit back and forth, but ultimately it is about moving out the lane. And so this has meant iBoy and Yuyanjia can play more aggressive, but that also has its downsides. And, you know, as much as we saw Leyan going for that invade on the Raptors, and he's repeating that, bear in mind, he took this before, so he has the timer. We'll see if he can get it again this time.
Decent out there. Oh, the end of the line, getting all the little chicky nuggies. And Xiaohao just trying to take away the last big chicken as he does do so. But this also means Leyan. They know where Leyan is at, but Leyan keeping the pressure up on Xiaohao I think is huge in these kinds of moments. And he's getting some serious chip damage off on him as he goes back towards the red.
And once again, prio from the Azir means they're able to be here first. Both junglers have smite, but this is looking to turn into a big skirmish.
It is. ZDZ goes for the engage. Ornn coming across the bow, though, will not hit anybody but the red buff. Both anyone's legend and RA back away after a couple ultis.
Yeah, don't want to overstay in that situation, especially as Swain has his ult to get up close and personal. So they will be able to defend the red buff for Xiaohao. He is a bit behind in farm already. Only one camp now to pick up the red, so could be a bit painful if he fell further behind, but otherwise we'll be fine. I think you're seeing, you know, as much as the Viego is fantastic in skirmishes, the ult is such a big power spike. Without that, you're not as confident in fights, but also you want there to be multiple people. You want there to be like 3 people to help you get someone low, and then you ult in. Graves is fine in those 1v1s against the Viego, can just bully you away, maintain distance with those powerful autos, the shotgun blaster. Now
we're about to see
we've seen this before.
It's literally just waiting to happen yet again. And guess what? iBoy doesn't have flash because he burned it last time. The Devourer comes out, but look who's right on the other side. Forge is waiting his way, and that is Yuyanjia, who has to use the gray health to get away. But does he make it? Forge cleans up iBoy, and there goes Yuyanjia into the trash basket.
Yeah, beautiful setup coming out from AL. Again, the repeat gank, no flash from iBoy. They have the ult coming in from the Tahm Kench to try and save, but it's not doing enough. And I think the pivotal piece of that was Forge making his way down to be there for the play. So we've consistently seen Strive have prio on this lane on the Azir. It's kind of expected, but because he went to assist his jungler with the invade on the top side, it allowed the wave to bounce back, allowed Forge to have first move and not miss too much. And then he was the difference maker, because if Forge wasn't there, I feel like iBoy and Yuyanjia just both escape, and it's a very different passage of play.
I think so too. Honestly, it's crazy to me that we've gotten to this point in the second game where I do feel like RA had a lot of pieces that they would have liked to have in that game 1, now in this game 2. But it is proving that the magical journeys are just that for anyone's legend.
Yeah, and one of the downsides is Yuyanjia W's in to disrupt. and then has to ult, but pulls iBoy towards the enemy team. I think if you just try to get as far away as possible, maybe flashed and then ate iBoy and just started running, that might have fared better. But he tried to disrupt first and foremost, and ultimately because Forge was coming down, this ended up backfiring pretty massively. And now 0-2-0 on iBoy, 0-1-0 on Yuyanjia, not having as good a game on this Senna Tahm. I mean, to be honest, they didn't have a great game on the Senna Tahm before, but kind of struggling with the pressure that has come out from these ganks, although they are doing fine in terms of picking up those plates.
They are, for sure. iBoy taking a decent amount of damage there on the back end of that one. But I was going to say, the pressure is still down here, right? iBoy and Yuyanjia are still pressing up. And honestly, at that point, that's where my smooth play-by-play brain was thinking, well, Xiaohao, why don't you just go back down there? It's just free kills. It's like a buffet on Sunday. But he's not going to do that just yet. ZDZ in some trouble, using the hook shot away. Leyan does have the Rift Herald, I believe, available to go up in this top lane if he wants to utilize it. But now Xiaohao is up here. Rift Herald used late. The wave's not even going to be there anymore. Actually, they had a couple more minions there as well. Xiaohao comes in for the engage. Huge hook shot flash, and they've got the Hextech ultimatum right onto Leyan. Big dawning shadow, though, the turnaround. That was huge team communication from RA.
The ult from iBoy, I mean, this is twofold. One, the durability changes, Leyan tank enough to survive, but then secondly, the ult from iBoy saving him. And remember, it's a Viego. If he gets that kill, he gets the reset, gets the whole set of cooldowns and the extra ult charge to go around. Oh, wait. Hold on.
They're in some trouble here. Tempered Fate goes down, lands on
Yuyanjia.
iBoy.
Oh, he's going to eat him over the wall.
He has Devour, exactly. I was just about to say he's going to save his life over the wall.
I thought he was leaving. I thought he was just like, I'm out. You're on your own, buddy. But just save him over the wall, gobbles him up. But yeah, I mean, fantastic play from iBoy to find that ultimate to save Leyan, because if he goes down, it could be a very different story. And ultimately, the turnaround damage from that Graves, the burst, with that Umbral Glaive, that early spiking item, managing to make things go in RA's favor. Remember, we set this up at the start of the game. RA has all these scaling elements. The Senna, who's going to be exceptional late game. The Azir, who also has that great range into the Viego. But watching this replay, the burst comes in, just not quite able to finish him off. Look how low the health bar is. Yeah, shield comes in. The damage is there. And Leyan gets the double proc off the treasure hunter, I believe he has, but also Triumph. Gets like all that gold in pocket.
That's like 10 health left or around there on Leyan. That is actually crazy. And what timing from RA. As well as you look at it, right? They've got a decent gold lead for an early game. About 1,000 gold in the lead. Nothing to write home about, but better than they were last game. I think that's something super telling.
A gold lead with this comp as well makes all the difference. There isn't a Kale on the enemy team to worry about in the late game. And as much as we've praised AL's setup for the ganks in bot lane, we haven't really seen Chocho do much outside of lane. Yes, those ganks have worked, but look at how lane is going in the 2v2. There is one plate left bot lane. I remember they heralded top. No heralds have been thrown down bot, and the tower is getting absolutely smacked. And the reason that's so important is iBoy being fasting Senna, you're going to be behind in gold, right, throughout the entire game. You make up for it in souls, but if you're taking plates like this, it actually remains a lot more even. If a fasting Senna also has a ton of gold, she becomes scary very quickly.
And here goes more of what we've seen all game along so far in the second one of this best of three is Leyan being aggressive. He takes the red buff as well, and now Xiaohao gets almost all of his health bar taken down.
You know what? Leyan, I wasn't sure how I feel about the Graves pick. You know, often wanted to see more proactivity, but this kind of feels a little bit reminiscent of what we've seen from his Nidalee, which is so respected and consistently banned.
Yep.
The power farming, the fast clearing, but also the invades, forcing pressure on the enemy jungler. And the fact that Graves is quite hard to punish, right? A lot of mobility, quite bulky, deceptively bulky for a ranged champion with those extra stats he gets from the grit passive. And right now, Xiaohao is not having a good time. Bot lane is definitely not having a good time in the 2v2. And it all just feels like it is going in RA's favor. But AL still do have that first dragon, and they're looking to set up for the second tier.
Yeah, I mean, they have mythic items coming across. We got the Imperial Mandate back for Forge. Divine Thunder just finished for ZEZ. Does have TP. Tempered Fate comes down as well, but Dragon's just being started up here by Leyan. That looks like the pressure from Yuyanjia and iBoy is going to be enough to dissuade them any further. Vision of the Empire comes out just to show that they are doing it, but that will be first dragon for RA.
Will be them able to take it? Pretty significant. Something I hit on was them getting an early dragon would make a lot of difference in terms of late game win cons. It is a Cloud Soul. ultimately, you know, people like to rag on Cloud Soul a bit. I actually think, particularly for Swain, it's insane. We talked before about how a big factor of Imperial Mandate is closing the distance and staying in range, what Swain loves to do. Cloud Soul makes it super easy to keep up with people, especially when the enemy team is like things like Azir and Senna that you might struggle to get on. It will definitely help. But what I will say is that RA getting that dragon means Soul, the earliest we will see Soul is going to be like 29 minutes into the game. And at that point, the Azir, the Senna will truly definitely be online. We'll have ornaments coming out as well. So the fact RA managed to secure that does give them a lot more space, remove some win cons from AL off that early dragon stacking.
Exactly. I'm honestly just still mind blown with the mental math you just did live on air. I thought we were told never to do mental math. You did great. I can't believe it. But it's all about timing for both these teams. And speaking of timing, it is Rift Herald number 2 started up for RA with AL right around the corner. Chocho finally getting out onto the map, but not really going to be able to contest this as Betty's coming down. They're coming quick, actually, but the Rift Herald does get secured in the end by RA. As ZDZ on the flank here, but they won't pull the trigger on it just yet. Actually, they will. Here it goes into the choke point as well. Forge is demonic ascensioning everywhere, and there's so much AoE, but look at that big Ornn horde back. It did not matter just yet. Yuyanjia is not going to go down. Forge is still going, but look, Strive flashes on the other side, gets a kill. He's all by himself. It is sustained battle after sustained battle, but Forge takes down Strive.
I cannot believe that was an even fight. Strive doing so much there, and it ended up being such a messy cluster. I have to honestly fault iBoy a little bit. Saw the souls on the ground for the Rift Herald and got a bit greedy. Forge, though, doing so much there. That choke point, that tight scenario, benefiting the Swain so heavily, that constant AoE damage, the mandate procs when he was finding the CC. And we'll see a replay of that one coming out. So iBoy, you know, he could have walked away, and then he sees the soul. He's like, you know what? I want that soul. Maybe I'll get the... Oh, no, never mind. I need to leave. Does flash away, but we see initially it's the mid laners. The mid laners are the one who make the difference here. Forge finds his way and has the AoE, but look at Strive. He is just free hitting during this fight. Does eventually dive in at the end. Tries to get the shuffle, but the flashes end up defeating him, and he does end up going down. Still, both mid laners doing a fantastic job here of making an impact.
Yeah, all those flashes coming out from anyone's legend there as well, just to make sure. I mean, if that Emperor's Divide connects, it's a much different fight. That is where Strive picks the rest of those up, but it's huge, right? The give and take, the again, conversation about the durability patch, it gets so tense in those fights because nobody is dying quickly. Forge is using his demonic ascension to separate the fight for the majority of that one. It's back and forth the entire time, and I think that is where you see, you know, these team fights being so crucial, and maybe where anyone's legend solidity of that team fighting from last split kind of plays into their favor. But as we see, you know, it's a very close, tight-knit game about 18 minutes in.
Yeah, very close. Obviously RA got their herald, so they still get the edge on that. But ultimately, it's those DPS champions, right? The Azir is one of these champions who can constantly put out damage in a fight. The Swain as well will just keep channeling that ult as long as he has enough champions around to drain. And in those extended fights, as you said, with the increased durability, they have so much value. I feel like one fact is Xiaohao wasn't able to get any of those resets in really due to going down. That can be a big difference maker in those extended fights. But for now, are they going to use that herald and get this tier 2? Leyan, though.
Oh, Hextech ultimatum. Leyan's just dead. They get the tower. TP is now coming in from RA. They're going to get a response from anyone's legend. Dawning Shadow comes across. ZDZ so low. Demonic Ascension comes out from Forge. They're trying to run away now. Betty using the arcade shift forward. Betty gets the kill in a cube.
Yeah, so tower taking, a lot of gold for RA, but a bit disrespectful from Leyan. You have to bear in mind, Camille can just jump on you, and Leyan oversteps there, so they end up trading down in terms of kills. It's still a net gold win for RA, but what I will say is that when you are using your herald and you're trading like only slightly up, definitely not a favorable scenario here. So Leyan ends up just being really disrespectful here, overstays, super close to tower. The stun comes in, connects with both, and then the ultimate after. Leyan's already dead. Like, Betty just finishes up the kill at the end. And then obviously we get the Azir coming in from Strive, is super powerful and could just kind of delete the Camille, but Forge shows up on the Swain and ultimately just puts an end to the fight.
Wins Zanya's second item as well on the Swain, so a little bit more of that sustainability there.
We've seen two, so we've seen like Rylai's and Zonya's both want to sort of been built with the mandate. Obviously, Rylai's means in those long fights, you're slowing everyone, you're proccing Mandate more. But Zhonya's can be really good at like mitigating certain tools. So I think like the knock up from the Ornn or the knockback, the Emperor's Divide, can be really annoying for Swain. If you're trying to get on top of people, particularly Strive's ultimate, if he can just push you away and out of range, that's one of the big frustrations and why Strive has picked this champion into Swain. If you can Zhonya's to avoid the knockback, can make a lot of difference. And also, just dodging bursts from the Graves, because this lethality Graves, 2 items completed, will absolutely nuke out a target who doesn't have much armor.
I will say, talk about nuking, you know, we got the Muramana and Trinity Force completed for Betty. I think that's a huge power spike, at least in terms of the Ezreal, but you're still waiting on a little bit of scaling from the ADC position. A lot different from what we saw last game, where the game was already pretty much decided, at least in terms of who was really in control of the game at this point. Here, it's a little bit of a toss-up in the air. You still have a gold lead for Rare Adam. They've been able to get some of those scaling online. You're going to start getting the ornaments coming through for themselves, and I think that's where anyone's legend, I guess the question needs to be begged. How do you approach the rest of this game? How do you ensure that the scaling for RA is not going to just make them get a free win?
I think there is one factor to it. I do feel like RA have the edge as this game goes on, but if AL can get onto the backline, if they can make iBoy and Strive have difficulty positioning, that can be the difference maker.
Leyan, oh, that's a big root, though. Heartbreaker was used. Double TPs coming in. Leyan is just dead to Forge. ZDZ comes in now, and Temper Fate comes out. RA is heading for the hills, but they've left Yuyanjia, and he's dead now. Root comes down on a Forge. Emperor's Divide doesn't do anything to save Strive as ZDZ takes him down. And that is a huge pickup for anyone's legend. 3 for 0, and now onto the Baron.
And that's the fight setup we want to see from AL. Just as I'm talking about scaling, about concerns, about ornaments going to be coming in, AL find the opportunity. Xiaohao looked like he was caught out at first, but then ZDZ at the end of that fight, beautiful engage on a Strive. The burst on the end as well, just catching them off guard. And just when things start to feel like they're slipping out of control, AL secure the Baron.
It's the team fighting. It's the decision making. It's what we saw in game number 1, and here we are in game number 2. Them turning it around. Strive up there, not able to get as much damage as we want, but it's Leyan's catch out originally that turns the tide in this one and makes AL say, we have this fight. We can win this.
Yeah, and I think critically, Betty so strong there with the big ult hitting multiple people. Chunks iBoy at the fight, and then ZDZ here flashes for the stun. The knockback doesn't get as much distance as he wants. And
it was
then
the connection
to
of the hook shot at the same time means that he didn't get to move as well.
Able to get the ultimate onto Strive to finish him off. Really excellent play. And I feel like AL was just confident because they knew Betty on the 2-item spike had Triforce Muramana going into that. They felt confident and now have found themselves that advantage. But game definitely not over yet. It is looking good though for AL compared to how we were talking a couple of minutes ago, especially Forge now has that 3-item spike on the Swain, has the Rylai's, has the Zhonya's, has the Mandate, everything you need at the moment. It is just about closing that gap. But if we look, no flashes for all of RA. Every single person lacking that mobility summoner to get away.
Yeah, and that's huge when we're going into the next fight, especially, you know, we have about a minute and 40 seconds till the would-be Dragon soul point for RA. But until then, it's about how do you buffer this aggression from AL as Tempered Fate comes down. You can't buffer it very long as Yuyanjia is fried up just like the catfish he is. And that's another kill for anyone's legend. Hookshot comes through for ZDZ, almost connecting onto Leyan, but it's still just pressure all around for the legends.
And it's really good play from QiuQiu again, using the ult to disrupt Yuyanjia, and he can't eat himself, right? He can't save himself with that ultimate. And so it's a great target to find that pick on. Betty doing so much damage here. And something to note, right? One of the issues with this fasting Senna is you fall really far behind in experience generally, but especially with the fact that AL got the Baron. Betty is level 14. iBoy just hit level 11. And remember that a lot of the changes with the durability patch with stats per level, health per level, armor per level, MR per level. If you're down in terms of experience, you're missing out on those. And if you look at Betty's health bar, especially with the Triforce being level 14, he is so much more bulky than iBoy is. The iBoy, super squishy, like less than 1500 HP. And every time I see a skill shot hit him, it just feels painful. I feel it in my core.
You definitely can, especially those true shot barrages take about half his health at this point. It is terrifying, but I think that's something to be said going into the rest of these fights, is that positioning, making sure that they're in the right position. iBoy isn't getting pop shotted by some of those pokes, but it's very difficult. It's almost impossible. And now you get another item completed for Betty, the Shireldia's Grudge. It's hard to take these fights. They're TPing. They want to make a stand here at this third dragon. And it looks like that might not be the call, as half of them get their health bars drenched by that true shot barrage. ZDZ on the flank. He does get spotted out. The Tempered Fate does not connect this time around, but they're surging forward. Forge is going in, and they've already gotten iBoy. That positioning not helping him today. And ZDZ hook shots and Hextech ultimatums onto Leyan. They are slowly but surely taking down RA one member at a time. Strive the only one left. He has nothing to save him, and that's a clean and total ace for anyone's legend, and they're gonna finish off this game number 2.
Everyone goes down 5-0, and again, AL, I love their setup for fights. This is something we saw glimmers of in spring. We saw it a bit, but we didn't get it consistently. Forge, knowing that iBoy has no summoner, flashing in, getting that slow, taking the pick. ZDZ on the flank, knowing exactly what his role is. And honestly, AL, I think like this is a fantastic opener to the split. RA, a team who did make that top 10, did make playoffs, falling 2-0 to AL.
Anyone's legend coming out clutch, coming out with a dub to start off the summer split in 2-0 fashion. It's not only the 2-0 fashion, it's the happiness, the smiles on those faces, but it's the way that they accomplished this. First game, utilizing the early pressure of the Nami Lucian bot lane, having pressure from the jungle to help that. And then in the game 2, realizing, you know, we can approach this in a little bit of a different fashion, but still have the same team fight dominance that they had in game 1.
And, you know, honestly, I feel like it's fantastic to see, because going into the day, we said, you know, for AL, it was a situation where we've seen the glimmers. We've seen the potential of this team. It just wasn't consistent. And sure, this is one series. We can't dictate the whole split on this. But beating a team like Rare Adam, a team who weren't far ahead of you in the standings, makes such a big difference. Being able to, you know, not only deny them a series win, but get one for yourself could have long-standing implications for the rest of the split. But I feel like the main thing I want to talk about, because it's too early to talk about standings, is talking about what we've seen from AL and their performance, because Spring had a lot of room to improve from, and the way they're playing now, it doesn't feel like it's just, oh, these players have had a fantastic series individually. It feels like they are playing as a team really well. They understand what to do, and what I love is the decisiveness from this team, knowing what they need to do in fights and just going for it. So many times, game 1 and game 2, the game felt like, you know, it was potentially close. Maybe even RA had an edge at times. And then they are like, actually, no, we are going to fight. We have a window. This is when we start it. And the setup ends up being fantastic for them. So it just feels like everyone's on the same page. Whatever they've done between spring and summer, whatever's been going on in their scrims, it has worked.
It absolutely has. And I'll say, you know, get yourself a top laner that can do both. That's all I'm gonna say. You got the Kale performance in game number 1. Then you got the engage hook shot Hextech ultimatum style from ZDZ in the second game. He picked up our MVP for first game on Kale, but I think he had also an incredible series, as the rest of AL did.
And ultimately, I feel like for this Ezreal pick, we've seen taken quite a bit into the center. The lane is not fun, right? We cannot deny at all that the laning phase was just unenjoyable for Betty. But when it came to those team fights, when it came to that 2-item spike that was hit, the confidence in Betty, the consistent true shot barrage just chunking out iBoy made all that difference for AL. So
almost
really good
double
start
the
to the
damage
series.
of both the bottom laners for RA as well. Just
yeah, I mean, really putting down the hit. And I feel like AL, it definitely feels like a revitalization from spring. It has been a long time since we've seen this team play. Obviously, didn't see them in playoffs. And then we've had an international tournament in between as well. And I didn't really know what to expect coming in with such a long time passing. I am very positively surprised.
Yeah, I've always been a pretty big fan after the last split, being able to see Bede really show up with Chocho. I think that duo bot lane is so strong in their own right? We have so many lauded bot lanes in the LPL, so many legendary carries, but I think that Bede and Chocho have really found a synergy together that works well, even in the face of iBoy and Yuyanjia bringing out the Senna and Tahm Kench twice in a row, right? They still adapted their style and approached it much in the same way. Like, you aren't going to have that same dominance as you did in the first game, but you know that at some point you're going to be able to pull out the mechanics and find those wins. And those early ganks, the magical journeys, the tempered fates, constantly setting up the engages. I can see why the Bard was picked up here.
And I want to say, QiuQiu, in my mind from spring, I had my view of him as, okay, he is a Leon player, heavy engager, stuff like that as well. Like, I want to be going in, I want to try and engage every window possible. I was like, how is QiuQiu going to look when enchanters have started to show up more? Do we just see him not lean on them at all, just stick to the engage supports and kind of be like, nah, I don't want any of that? No, he played Nami and Bard today. Yes, he did not play those melee engages, and honestly, it worked. I will say the Nami game, there was definitely some moments that weren't ideal, but I think it worked, and importantly, it worked for the team, because there's definitely examples of supports who I think are proficient on these champions. Ming is, I think, a great example. Ming, I know, can play these enchanters, but I'm not sure RNG functions nearly as well when Ming isn't on engage. I kind of had similar concerns for AL, but it's very clear, very indicative that the solo laners can make the engages happen if QiuQiu isn't necessarily on primary engage. And even then, on the Bard, he was making it work, right, with those tempered fates. So just really fantastic play coming out of him and exceeding my expectations for himself.
True. I do